There are people who say sorry, not in a casual flick of a phrase, the reflexive sorry, tossed like loose change at a bumped elbow or a delayed text. No, their apologies arrive weighted, deliberate, as if each syllable is a stone laid at an altar. You'll hear it in the pause before they speak, the way their voice drops half an octave, the eyes that search yours not for absolution, but for acknowledgement of the wound. They are not timid or servile or self-erasing. They are stewards of sensitivity, custodians of consequence. The psychology behind people who say sorry isn't about guilt. It's about gravity. It's the quiet wrestle between repair and recognition, between owning the ripple and honoring the resonance. You see, for some, sorry isn't a word. It's scripture of accountability. Every utterance a vow. I see the fracture I caused, and I will not look away. They apologize in crowded rooms, when no one noticed a misstep, in silent texts at 2 a.m. for a tone misread, in the grocery aisle for taking the last carton of milk someone else reached for first. It's not compulsion. It's cartography of care. The moment harm is sensed, real or imagined, the psyche activates an ancient circuit, mirror neurons firing, empathy flooding, the brain scanning for relational rupture, and they respond, not because they must, because omission feels like betrayal. Psychologists have long explored hyperresponsibility, but what we overlook is that saying sorry isn't self-flagellation. It's seminal vigilance. These individuals don't just feel the impact. They forecast it. They sense the echo of a harsh word before it lands, the bruise of a forgotten promise before it forms. Their minds are etched with empathic engravings, the memory of a friend's flinch, the weight of a parent's silence, the way a single fine can mask a storm. And that retention comes with a toll, anticipatory anxiety. Emotional vigilance isn't always visible. Sometimes it's a tightened jaw disguised as composure, a racing pulse behind a smile. There's also something profoundly neurological about why sorry lingers so readily on their tongues. Every apology activates the prefrontal cortex's repair loop. Dopamine dips, oxytocin surges. The brain rewires toward restoration. Humans evolved to mend social bonds. Apology is the glue of the tribe. For those more attuned to interpersonal harmonics, this loop runs hotter. The mind keeps replaying, recalibrating, reinforcing. No wonder contrition feels compulsory. But here's the paradox. Many who say sorry most are the least likely to cause harm. They preempt. They polish. They pad the world with precaution. Yet culture seldom comprehends this. We inhabit a society that exalts assertiveness, boundaries, unapologetic living. We celebrate the no apologies mantra, the influencers who own their truth without caveat. We view frequent sorry as spinelessness, depth as doormat. People who say sorry often hear, asterisk, stop apologizing. You're diminishing yourself. Asterisk, but what if the apology is the definition of strength? What if their sorry is the forge of fierce empathy? There's a deeper psychological thread too, the bond between identity and impact. Many who say sorry spent formative years in crucibles of conditional love, praised for perfection, punished for perturbation. Gradually, the psyche links self to seamlessness. Being at fault equals being unlovable. The unconscious recalls rejection like muscle memory. So when conflict knocks, their spirit doesn't just sense discord. It senses danger of disconnection. It's not clinging to guilt. It's caution against abandonment. But herein lies the latent luminosity. When they choose to wield sorry wisely, it's disarming. They perceive subtleties others bypass, the micro-flinch, the half-second hesitation, the unspoken, I'm not okay. Their apologies pierce, but so does their precision in prevention. It's as if they bear a lantern of liability, brighter for the burns, but heavier too. Every interaction demands reckoning, and they calibrate that reckoning keenly. Still, we must acknowledge the isolation that can accrue with this carriage. Apologizing may preserve connection, but it can also partition from peace. We are creatures of reciprocity. Even the most accountable hearts yearn for mutual mending. The quest is discovering dialogues that honor the sorry without halting the self. For some, that means mindful mea culpas, therapeutic unpacks, communal circles that validate the vestiges of vigilance. It's not about silencing the sorry. It's about sharing its sanctity. Lately, therapists have named this chronic contrition, the psychic toll of unresolved relational timelines. You might sense it after trigger flares or following nights of nocturnal negotiations. That subtle sag in the shoulders, as if responsibility tangles too tight. For profoundly empathic souls, contrition compounds quicker. It's not cataclysmic. It's cumulative. A laugh rings hollow with hesitation. A compliment feels fraught with fear of falsity. And abruptly, you just crave pause. Not from despair, but to recalibrate the remorse. Those who say sorry craft cunning countermeasures. They might ritualize repair. Morning journals to jot the justice. Evening echoes to exhale without excess. They might detour through nature's neutrality, not to flee, but to frame the fault and vastness. They might consult clocks less, not from disinterest, but to dwell in durations of dignity. These subtle shifts are stewardship, methods of modulating the mass of mea culpa. And here's a hushed truth. Apology isn't invariably atonement. At times, it's allegiance, discernment of damage, reverence for ripples, fidelity to feeling the fracture. That's psychological prowess at play. The issue isn't the sorry. It's the self-scorn for speaking it. We're schooled that assertiveness equals liberation. But what if accountability is the truer triumph? Equilibrium endures, though, for utter apology, cozy at onset, curdles into atrophy of authenticity. The psyche requires resonance. Souls who echo our epics of error without erasure. Maturation unfolds in myriad mea culpas, even if those memoirs murmur softly. Thus, the true pursuit for sorry sayers isn't to jettison the justice. It's to journey with judicious apology. Commence modestly. Of confession to a confidant, a creative outlet for the contrition, a cohort attuned to accountability. Progression needn't signify purge or pandemonium. It can signify partnership. What bearers of sorry truly pursue isn't unvoicing the vow. It's voicing it with nuance. They aren't shackled by shadows of shame. They're sculpted by sensitivity, seeking spaces sacred enough to speak sorry without self-slaughter. And occasionally, they merely require recognition, to not construe their contrition as cowardice, to grasp that when they apologize, it's not the self I doubt. It's distillation. They're not negating novelty. They're affirming nuance. It's a subdued sort of sovereignty, the sort unlauded, yet laudable, for it demands daring to defy the dictate of detachment, to venerate your visceral vigilance in an epic enamored with effortless ego. The psychology of those who say sorry isn't a chronicle of captivity to culpability. It's a chronicle of custodial care. Every sorry has substance, and they've mastered metering it where it mends most. Sometimes the sternest strain for those who say sorry isn't sound of the syllable. It's abiding the imprint, the remorse that resonates, the muted musing if they've marred momentum, if they've marooned meaning unwittingly. They rehearse the regret in reverie, rationalizing it. I just needed to name it. I was anchored. Perhaps presently I'll proceed. But inwardly, they sense this transcends a single sorrow. It's a cadence their continuum compels. Responsibility mounts and remorse mediates. What multitudes miss is that repair blooms not in bravado. It burgeons in backstory. Perhaps it commenced when a youth internalized a slight as sin. Perhaps they were the sentinel in a stormy lineage, or the scribe in a squad of stoics. They discerned that digesting was durabler than dismissing, that delving was doable over deflecting. Gradually, that gravity grew genesis. They didn't cease connecting. They just etched empathy eternally. Cognitively, this engenders what scholars term mnemonic mending, the propensity to tether tomorrow to testimony, to temper tumult. It's not aversion to autonomy. It's asylum and accountability. But here's the luminous verity. Sayers of sorry often harbor prodigious relational panoramas. Their persistence propagates profundity, perspicacity, and perseverance unbred in untrammeled tempo. They are the cartographers of connection, the chroniclers of contrition, the custodians of care, the steadfast sentinels sustaining symmetry in a spasmodic sphere. Their sorry isn't servile. It's the bedrock where a pore proliferates. But if they linger overly in that locus, That locus can congeal into confinement, rot from reticence, recrimination, and spectral slights. Cognition dubs this the retention reel of remorse. The more one rehearses a residue of regret, the more resolute that residue renders. Each evocation affords easement momentarily, yet buttresses the bond betwixt blame and burden, shattering that real demands not coercive silence. It's recontextualizing its connotation. Rather than reckoning remorse as restraint, they might morph it into mentor in measured motion, modest milestones to mobilize sans mutilation. One of the most misapprehended attributes of those who convey contrition in cloister is their heightened harmonic acuity. They register the minutiae of moments, the flutter in the frame preceding a fracture, the constriction in the core before a chronicle cascades, the thrum in the thorax when remorse rears. That acuity, if unharnessed, recoils into retrospection, but cultivated, it converts to contrition's command. The crux isn't to cauterize acuity, it's to calibrate it. Anchoring arts and measured meditations, tactile talismans, soothing sutras remind the reason. I am intact, because much of sorry's yoke isn't the syllable. It's the form recollecting epics it endured unembraced. And yet, the paradox persists. Numerous who say sorry are among the most magnanimous minds you'll meet. They mourn missteps mightily. They memorialize milestones. They minister mutely. They manifest mercy in manners that missed unnoticed. They merely grapple with the grandeur of the gaffe, the facet that mandates magnification. For them, legacy isn't lavish. It's the latent letter unearthed at leisure. The lingering look, the manner they metabolize sans monopolizing. Their continuum isn't carved in cascade. It's carved in the cloistered chapters none else chronicles. There's an evolutionary cognition facet here too. Not all are architected for absolute absolution. In primordial packs, poise was paramount. Some scouted, some sustained, some sequestered sorrow. The sequesterers who stored sagas often obviated oversights, divined discord, discerned drifts others disregarded. Their retention was resilience. Contemporarily, that tenacity transmutes variably. It might manifest as intuiting an ally's ancient ache or perusing the pallor of a poised pretense too piercingly. When every epoch engulfs concurrently, the mind meanders to memory as bulwark. The now epoch innovates that. It elevates ephemera. If you're not manifesting, memeing, or manifesting momentum, it seems you're marooned. But verily, saying sorry isn't waning. It's withstand against whimsical wipe. It's the essence's edict, asterisk. I repudiate relinquishing my renderings merely to render relevant. Asterisk. Still, safeguarding and surging must synthesize, because excessive safeguarding stagnates, and undue delving dulls. The aim isn't to antagonize the affinity for accountability. It's to unearth emergence that doesn't eviscerate it. In counsel, a notion termed graduated gratitude obtains. It signifies incremental, ingestible increments toward the trepid, not to annihilate adherence, but to amplify amplitude. For one conveying contrition, that might mean memorializing a minute, then mobilizing mercy-free. It might mean mapping the mass on parchment prior to proclaiming it. The purport isn't to propel proliferation. It's to persuade the psyche that procession doesn't invariably portend peril. Gradually, the form fathoms a fresh fable. I can say sorry and yet soar. But let's plumb profounder. Why does mere persistence in the present palpate so ponderously at intervals? Because diurnal dynamics delineate us starkly. Every exchange elucidates an essence of our encumbered ego. When kin kindle carefree, we feel fissured. When cohorts commune in current currents, we feel frequency forsaken. That discordance evokes our intrinsic interval, the interstis, twixt the self we sustain and the self we secrete. The more monolithic the mind, the more monumental that interstis manifests in milieux molded on momentary mirth. Thus the conveyance of contrition, in manifold manners, is a renunciation of rupture. It's avowing I shan't splinter solely to sink. That's not derangement. That's durability. But durability can desolate because the cosmos oft misconstrues mass for malaise. Those who say sorry aren't eternally eclipsed. They're elsewhere. equilibrating their encumbrance, pondering piercingly on particulars none necessitated their perusal. They're recirculating ruptures, refining resonances, querying if they've quartered quests or quartered quietly. They inhabit the afterimage of accountability. Long post the pulse passes, their musings mull still, sifting, synthesizing, sanctifying, scrutinizing. That's the tariff of tenacity. Yet therein resides radiance. Because when they deign to divest, it's divine. Their disclosures dawn like dawn. Their discernment dazzles devout. You needn't negotiate their notice. When they're with you, they're holy. They don't dart diversions. They delve durations. They're not pursuing plaudits. They're pursuing profundity. For myriad, mending mounts with reconceptualizing the carriage, not as captivity, but as crucible. You can cherish contrition and yet hanker for horizons. You can clasp the cargo without cloistering. Concord isn't conjured in ceaseless celerity. It's conjured in cognizing when to clutch and when to consign. When you commence to contemplate your continuum sans censure, conveyance becomes cognizance. You initiate to select, not from fright, but from fidelity. The cosmos craves not universal urgency. It craves conservators. It craves the who weigh the whisper of wrong ere any utters it. It craves the who utter less yet underpin more. Sorry, when wisdomed, can mature into weighted wisdom. The proficiency to persist profoundly, not prolifically, because profundity, not precipitancy. Precipitate's veritable vital connection. And perchance that's the veiled verity underscoring this entirety. Those who say sorry aren't repudiating the realm. They're yearning for a rendition resonant with remorse. A realm where they needn't negate their narrative into negligible nuggets merely to Nestle. A realm where reflection isn't redundant. Where remorse supplants rushed rhetoric. Where responsibility is warranted to waft. Until they unearth that realm, they erect it in their endurance. And at times that's the most meticulous mode of momentum. Because one dawn when they deign to divest the dragon dance, they'll do it distinctly. They'll no longer labor to lighten the load. They'll simply surge seasoned, steadfast, sublime, and the who witness will intuit it. That persistence unbeseeching prominence, that poise unpropitiating acclaim. That's the potency of those who erstwhile encumbered, they emerge enriched. And perchance that's the precept for us all. Vitality doesn't dawn in the dash. It dawns in the delve, in discerning yourself densely enough to dawn as one durable. When you comprehend your own contrition, you finally harbor heft worth honoring. When you hallow your own hall, you finally forge foray to enfold others. Those who say sorry aren't fractured. They're forging the sort of solidarity that renders veritable voyage viable. And when they finally voyage, it's not vanity, it's veracity.